One day you just woke up, walked in the bathroom, looked in the mirror, and wondered, who is this? Like, who is this woman? Because the woman you were maybe 10 years ago, 5 years ago, a year ago, girl, you're like, where did she go? And I'm laughing, right? But it's not funny. Because when we're really sitting in it and we're looking at that person in the mirror and we're like, who is she? It's almost as if like, it's not funny, but you have that little chuckle like, I can't believe that I allowed myself to get to this place. Because that's what I did about 2 years ago. I looked at myself and said, girl, how did you get to this place? To the point that you're questioning who you are. You don't know your identity anymore, right? Because now you're wondering, what do I like to do? How do I like to dress? Where would I like to go? And it's like, since when I had to question myself about these things? Right? There was a point in time when you were able to just get up and say, I'm going to do this today. I'm going to do that, and you're just in your flow because there was a point in time you had your own identity and you knew who you were without even having to question yourself about why you like the things you like, why you do the things you do, and why you may hang around the people you hang around with, right? But you became a mom. And that's what this episode is about, because we find ourselves at times wondering who we are, all because we became a mom. And we start to wear that hat, mom, mom, mom. Some of you may be married like myself, and you might even have this other hat on saying I'm wife, So you start to adopt these titles and you're so in your role of who you're expected to be that you start to forget about who you are as a person, who you are as a woman. And when you start to lose sight of who you are, you sit there and you almost feel like you're grieving because you lost someone. You lost yourself. And coming from someone that had lost a lot of family members, like, girl, it's almost like every year, okay? And it's hurtful. I will say the biggest loss that I've ever had was losing myself. It felt so uneasy sitting in this uncertainty about who I was because I couldn't make the smallest decisions. I was contemplating about maybe I should change my closet and start wearing these colors, or maybe I should stop wearing those type of pieces of clothing and wearing these pieces of clothing, hoping that if I just change how I dressed, I would know who I was. And that did not help. Now, granted, it did get me out of the place I was in, right? Because I started taking steps to try to figure out who I was. But what I realized was it wasn't about what I'm going to wear today to determine who I was. It was about coming to a place that I no longer knew who I was because I became a mother and I started prioritizing everyone and everything before myself. Every time I made a decision to do something for someone at the expense of myself, by saying no to me, I lost more and more of myself. Now, you may think that losing yourself is something that happens literally, like a big thing has to happen, and it's not. It's in the little, small, micro decisions that you make every day. Every time you decide, I'm going to do this thing for somebody else, and I'm going to put this thing that I care about or I like aside. Girl, my husband just came in, so let me try to pick back up where I was leaving off because I don't even know what I was just saying, okay? But anyway, when you make micro decisions every day and you say yes to someone else and you say no to yourself, even if it's something you really want to do, you lose more and more of yourself. So, for example, I was deciding, and I spoke about this in my last episode, that I would bring my daughter to school every morning, despite the commute back and forth or whatnot, right? I was not prioritizing myself in the morning. So that means I didn't have any morning routine where I would at least wash my face or maybe have like a certain hygiene routine or anything like that. I would literally roll out of bed looking all crazy, hot mess, to go bring her to school because I was prioritizing what she wanted. Now, while I'm still prioritizing what she needs by bringing her to school, I decided to address it a different way. And that was with starting my morning for myself first. Now, I had attempted this strategy, for lack of better words, about, I want to say 3 years ago. I would get up early, and the first thing I would do would be getting up, going into my bathroom. I would use the restroom. I would wash my face, brush my teeth, right? Go in my living room, and I would spend time with God. Because just knowing that he said, seek him first, right? I would seek him first. So that's what I would do. Then I would start straightening up around the kitchen, loading up the dishwasher, things like that, and make myself my tea. I would be dressed already for the day. Now, don't think I didn't shower ever. Like, I was taking my showers literally at night. And for me, that was fine. Just taking a nice shower, a good deep shower or whatever at night. And then in the morning, I would just throw my clothes on and I would, freshen up or whatever. So I would do this every day. And by the time I had to wake my children up, I would have been wide awake, already did like the micro little things that filled me up. Okay. At some point in the last 2 years or so, I completely fell off. Okay. But I do want to point out that part of that, of me falling off, was that I was not seeking God anymore. Like, I was living from a place of survival where it's like, oh, let me get up, and I'm literally dragging myself out of the bed. And I said I had no time for anything, which was not true. I just was putting my time elsewhere late at night, watching garbage TV, and then get up in the morning, dragging myself out of bed to go do something I don't want to do. And now I'm already starting my day off completely wrong because now I'm in my feelings about how I didn't get my tea or how, I'm not dressed yet. So now I'm not taking a shower until after all the kids leave. So now I'm taking a shower at 9 o'clock in the morning, getting dressed. And I kept feeling like my day was just getting ahead of me. Like I was losing my time, right? And so when I realized that, okay, this needs to stop, okay? Because I'm not looking the way I want to look every day. Now, I don't do a lot of makeup and all that stuff in my face. If that's your thing, girl, you do your thing, okay? My daughter's like that. She get up 4 a.m, maybe 5, and she has a whole, face beat, okay? That's her thing. Me, I'm a lip gloss girl, or put some little Vaseline on my lips and I'm good to go, okay? Usually I like my eyebrows done, but I even get those done every few weeks, okay? So I just don't do the makeup. So my morning routine is not, something that's going to take me hours. I'm good with a good hour in the morning to just get a good, nice, deep shower. I don't know why I keep saying deep shower, but you get the gist. I'm just saying I get that deep moisture. I get to be in that hot water and just take it all in, okay? That is self-care for me, okay? So I get to do that in the morning, spend time with God, and drink some water or tea or whatever, or coffee. that is important to me because by not doing that, I was losing myself. Like, I was feeling like, oh my goodness, like, why am I making someone else's need more important than my needs? And then knowing that I had things to do, right? Like, I have a to-do list. I feel like I would be behind and not getting to it all because now I'm doing this stuff later. So, yes, it required me to change some of my habits, but I didn't care to change those habits unless I had a good reason to. And that why was prioritizing myself again. Knowing that I'm deserving of self-care. Knowing that I'm deserving of having a peaceful morning that doesn't consist of me ripping and running and feeling stressed out. Like, why am I burning myself out by trying to keep up with the day? God gave us this day, and it wasn't for us to be chasing the time. Like, we have time as a measurement, I guess you could say, for the day, so that way we could get things done. And, and it's kind of following when the sun rises and the sunset, etc., right? So it's a good indicator to get things done at a good time, so that way it makes sense, right? Our kids are not going to go to school at midnight. But he gave us this day as a blessing. He didn't give us a day for us to feel like we're waking up every day and we're chasing against time, or should I say fighting with time, where we can't enjoy our days. He gives us life more abundantly. So why are we feeling like, because we're mothers, that somehow that doesn't apply to us, that we have to chase our tails, drink 10 to 15 cups of coffee? Now, if you're doing that, I'm really concerned because you shouldn't be doing that. Okay, maybe 5, right? But we're drinking coffee to keep us energized and keeping us to just stay up within a day to get like our daily tasks done, as if water is not enough, right? Drink you a cup of coffee. Maybe that's a part of your self-care, but it should not be used as your only source of fuel and energy. Like, you should be able to pour into yourself in a multitude of ways that doesn't give you this caffeine spike, right? Because believe it or not, you drink a lot of caffeine, at some point it feels like you crash. It feels like you feel disgusted, like later on in the day. Okay? But that's another conversation. And so you should be able to survive without so many cups of coffee. You should be able to survive without running around like a chicken without their head and feeling like, oh my goodness, if I don't go hurry up and do this right now, oh my goodness, if I don't do that, this is going to happen. Like, you should not be having to worry about that. You should be able to approach whatever it is that you got to do within your day with grace, okay? And rest in it. Like, you should be able to be in this peace that it's like, I can get these things done today and honor my capacity where I filled myself up as a priority and considered who I am as a woman and the things that matter to me, without feeling like you have to choose between the two. You should be able to say, I have to do this for my children today. I have to drop them off. I'm going to have to pick them up. I'm going to cook dinner, or maybe they have a doctor's appointment. But even though I have these responsibilities, I don't have to choose between sitting down outside on my porch for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and drink a cup of coffee in peace. You don't have to choose to go do these things for your children, but your hair looks like it's matted and you're wearing a bonnet on your head, okay? Because you don't want to carry yourself that way, right? You want to show up looking like something every day. And so you have to make the time for yourself. Because every time you say no to yourself, you're losing yourself. You don't know what you like to do anymore. That's something that I had to think about. What do I like? I look back and I was just sitting there thinking, wow, I remember I used to like writing. I would write poems. And I'm talking about like when I was a teenager. And yes, some hobbies change and things like that. But there has to be something within me that possibly like to do those things still. Or I may like to express myself in a different way, right? And so it's like, well, how do I connect back with myself to realize what fills me up in the things I do? Is it listening to music while taking a nice warm bath? Is it going out with one of my friends to brunch and having some chit chat talk with her? Let's key. And I'm away from the kids for a few hours so that way I could feel like I'm a person other than a mother. And I know when I keep saying I'm a person, I mean, it's not like we're not people, right? But you get what I'm saying. It almost feels like you lose yourself to the point that you're like, am I even a human being anymore? Like, I feel like I'm living on autopilot and I'm consistently showing up, but I feel like a zombie or something. Like, I feel like, what's the point anymore? And here's the thing. When you get to this point of feeling like you lost yourself to no return, you're not the only person that pays the price. You may feel like, wow, I don't know who I am and I feel miserable right now. And I want you to know this doesn't last forever. Like, as long as you get a hold of it, you could change it, right? But your children feel that. Your children see it. Do you want to be a mom that you're cooking dinner for your children and they almost feel like when you pass them their food, they're a problem? They're a bother to you? If you read the book of Proverbs 31, you will learn about the noble wife, right? A noble wife, God-fearing woman. Everything she does well. And you want to make sure that when you're caring for your children, you're doing it well. You don't want to give them just part of you, and you don't want to give them the side of you that is just always restless and tired and burnt out and feeling like you just want to give up. You know, there's this saying going around on social media, and I had to catch myself because it was like a little trend. And listen, I'm not perfect, okay? None of us are, so don't judge me, okay? We listen, we don't judge. But they say F them kids. And I don't like the idea of it because I was thinking about it yesterday and I'm like, wait, like you could easily say it and it's like, come on, it's because you're feeling like enough is enough, right? But we got to be really mindful of our words because the Lord is really, really clear about how we use our words. And I said, oh my goodness, I don't want to be cursing my kids. Now, I didn't say this to my kids, right? But it's just the fact that I shouldn't be saying it at all. Or, you know, we find it funny. I'm on the phone with one of my friends and we're laughing. But it's like, no, I don't want to be saying that about my babies. They're a blessing. They didn't ask to be here. But when you get to a point of saying things like that, some people might say they're making light of it and, you know, it's a joke. But let's be real. You're saying it because you are burnt out. You feel like, wow, I don't even know who I am anymore. Like, I'm not trying to do this and I'm not trying to do that. I got to figure out what I want and who I am, right? And I get it, mama. Like, I hear you. I see you. Because I felt like that before. There's times still to this day. And I say it all the time. I'm not perfect. I'm still in progress. But I know enough. And I believe I have a good amount of wisdom. Never God's wisdom, right? It's not, I don't have his amount of wisdom. But I will say that the Lord was so graceful enough to give me a gift of wisdom that I can do something, I have conviction, and he will correct me. And then I know how to shift gears. I know how to correct things. I know how to go into repentance and tell the Lord, I am sorry, Lord, forgive me. And then I know how to give that advice to someone else and give them good counsel. And it's because I am so imperfect that the Lord will use me over and over and over again to do so. Because that shows his glory. That shows that I'm weak, and without him, I would not be strong. I am only strong when he is in it, not me by myself, So even in motherhood, you cannot do this by yourself. Whether you're a single mom, a married mom, you cannot do this by yourself. Yes, maybe your husband may help you with some things, and maybe your kids are getting up in age, but you have to lean on God and ask him who you are, and make sure that when you ask him wholeheartedly and he shows you who you are, you believe that's who you are. And you make sure that your life is a reflection of that in your motherhood, in your household. Because if you know who you are and he reveals who you are and he says, hey, you need to come back to yourself, don't feel guilty about it. And I mentioned that in the last episode about giving yourself permission. Give yourself permission to be a woman, a God-fearing woman, a mother, and if you're married, a wife. But don't lose sight of you. Do not lose sight of what makes you you. Because that is a very dangerous place to be. Because you don't understand how much pain it's inflicting on you and your children. I can keep talking and going on and on about this topic because when you don't know who you are, this goes beyond the idea of even the things you desire, the things you like and stuff like that. But this is not what that conversation is about today, so I'm not going to even go into that. But I want you to understand that in order for God to have you show up as the mother that he called you to be, you need to make sure you stay clear on who you are. And if you don't know who you are, ask him. Because again, we go through a lot of life transitions, and those transitions alter who we are over time. And I'm not saying that you're necessarily always losing yourself. Sometimes you're growing, right? Because he's pruning you, and some of the habits you may have had in the past, you no longer have, right? And so now you're in a different place. But it's sometimes hard to recognize it when you're so distracted with the day-to-day when it comes to being a mother. Because being a mother is very demanding. And it's a job that you do not get paid for, right? Now, I'm sure you're going to have rewards in heaven for doing it well, right? Because that's part of your calling, is that you were called to motherhood. That's why you're here listening to this episode. You were called to be a mother. This is a calling. And I want you to look at it as a calling, because that's what it is. God trusted you enough to call you to become a mother. So you need to be stewarding that well. But in order to do so, you need to take care of yourself. Don't forget about yourself. Do not lose yourself in the process. If you enjoy this episode, let me know in the show notes. Drop a comment in the show notes. Let me know. Well, not in the show notes, but in the comments. Let me know, what is one area in motherhood that you believe is putting you in a place of where you feel like you're losing yourself. Where are you losing yourself right now in this season in motherhood? And what do you think would be the best thing you can do right now so that way you can get back to yourself? How can you recenter and come back to yourself? Let me know. And before you go, if you don't know already, I have a free guide that I'm going to leave the link in the show notes so that way you can identify the cycles that you're facing every day. Whether it's things like getting up early in the morning like me and bringing your children to school and finding yourself not brushing your hair, not getting dressed for the day. We want to tackle it when it's happening. We don't want it to be something that's dormant that you don't even realize that it's affecting you and causing you chaos in your life. So go get the guide. It's free. It's in the show notes. And until next time, we'll talk in the next episode.